Right, so we're now recording. So, welcome everybody. My name is Professor Bobo. I'll be beginning with a little introduction of myself. I have been working for Concordia University since the inception of the program, the school counseling program in 2011. I've taught all of the courses. I have been a school counselor for about 25 years and in the Hawthorne School District, and I have done all three levels of that. I'm currently in elementary, and I have one son who's 31 years old, and he just relocated back to where he went to college, which is Orlando, okay, Florida. So, any questions about the different areas, or I'll try to hit most of the areas, but a lot of my experience is going to come from the elementary. That's my most recent experience. We collaborate with all of our middle and high school students, so a lot has not changed since I left middle and high school. As I collaborate with them, some of the things that they're doing, they're still doing. Some of the concerns they're having, they're still having. So. I am getting some updated information about that. I'd like to begin the course with you guys introducing yourselves, telling me a little bit why you chose school counseling, and if you're currently working in education or if you're working outside of education. Um, Anybody just want to jump in?
I can start. My name's Ariel. I want to be a school counselor mostly because I feel like I didn't feel very connected to my school counselor back when I was in high school, and I probably definitely could have benefited from it.
Okay,
So my goal is always to be more accessible and like more welcoming, I feel like, than mine was. And I got to experience that as I do work in education. That was also a big choice of why I chose to do this program. Um, so I work as a college advisor for like seniors in high school to make sure that they're able to get to college.
great, excellent. Thank you, Ariel. Anybody else want to jump in?
Can go
Good.
next.
Okay.
My name is Alyssa, and I chose school counseling because I want to connect further with students and to help them through school and through the challenges of school. I am a teacher right now, and I do absolutely love it, but I think school counseling gives you another chance to connect further with them.
Excellent. Thank you.
I'll go next. My name is Carla Armenta, and um, I chose school counseling mainly because I guess my experience, mainly my high school experience, I feel like I struggled a lot and I did not, kind of like how Ariel said, I didn't have a school counselor that was very present. It wasn't until I was like in danger of failing when I finally like was able to get access to those resources. And so I would like to be more proactive. And be accessible to students. But I think the more experience I have, I'm open to all grades, but I think I would really like to work with like a K-8 school and give like more of that early intervention, that early help before they go into high school. I currently am working as a guest teacher just because it offers more flexibility. I love teaching, but I do get to teach, but I also have that flexibility so I can also focus on school without fully committing to a classroom. And I love it. It's been a great experience for me, but I really do look forward to becoming a school counselor and kind of being able to step into that role.
Excellent. Thank you so much for sharing.
We can go next. So my name is Carmen. I work in a high school. I work in the English learner department, and that's the reason why I want to become a counselor because I saw really close the needs and the challenges those students face, and I want to be part of the group or part of the team that helps the students to transition in this country. Yeah, they kind of inspire me to be here.
You, Carmen.
I can go next. My name is Stephanie, and I currently work as in education as a paraeducator. And what inspired me to be a school counselor, I was really lucky enough to have a great school counselor who like really inspired me to want to influence people's life the way she influenced my life. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you, Stephanie.
I can go next. My name is Erica. I want to be a school counselor because mostly of my experience in high school, the staff was very supportive, and I kind of want to give that back. I don't currently work in education. I currently work as a copy supervisor. So I do have a team of people that I support, and I kind of want to bring what I've learned there into a new environment in education.
Thank you.
I can go next.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
My name is Sandy Chahal, and the reason I want to be a counselor is I really see how, as counselors, we can connect with students on an individual basis. And I love building relationship with students. I used to work with high school students, and it was just getting those connections with them that really inspired me to be a school counselor. And currently now I work with elementary school kids, so I see like the difference of it. And I just can't wait to be a school counselor, see um, what we can do for all our students.
Excellent. Thank you. Katie?
Yeah, I'm Katie. I had a really great counselor in high school that had inspired me, and I actually got to observe with her when I was doing my practicum, which is like full circle, crazy. And then I worked as a kindergarten aide, and that was another reason why I wanted to be a counselor, just getting to work one-on-one with the students, and just listen to them and help them do like conflict resolution and just with a lot of the emotions was just yeah, it pushed me more into wanting to be a counselor. And I love the teacher that I work with, and I think teachers are great, but like for me, I was like, that is way too much stress and pressure that I don't think I could do. So I looked into counseling instead.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
I can go next.
Okay.
So my name is Jessica, and I want to be a school counselor because I felt like I didn't really get the high school counselor experience, or I didn't really get to know them. So I want to do that different for others and
Mhm.
have give that support. Um, and currently I am a teacher, so I work with kids, and I love the building relationships with them aspect.
Okay. Excellent.
I can go next.
Bethany?
My name is Bethany, and I want to get into school counseling because I love helping kids socially, emotionally.
Hmm.
That's something that I'm really passionate about, and I thought this field would just be a good fit. I don't currently work in education. I'm a secretary for my church, but my church also has a pre-K through eighth school. So
Okay.
I get to see the behind the scenes of things a lot.
Excellent. I think we just have Gabrielle left and Jesus.
My name is Gabrielle. I currently work as a crossing guard at a school, but I don't think I'll be returning next year to make time for field work.
Okay.
But I wanted to get into school counseling because, similar to Erica, I had like a really good experience with the staff in my school. And I feel like
Okay.
it really made a difference for me. And
Mhm.
so it feels like a feasible way for me to give back to my community and help other kids.
Great.
Cool. I'll go next. First, I want to apologize because I'm pulling into my house right now. I was picking up my mom's medication, so I'm
Okay.
about to be in a second. But I currently work as a high school teacher, high school English teacher. I want to be a school counselor because I had an amazing high school counselor,
Okay.
and I come from a like a like an area where not a lot of people gets like good mentorship. So I just wanted to give back to my community, and that's why I wanted to be a school counselor.
Excellent. Thank you. You won't miss much when you jump out. I'm taking attendance right now. All right. So I'm missing Fatima, Kylie, and Stephanie. Is that correct? Everybody else is here?
I went.
Oh,
Hello.
Stephanie, there you are.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. That's
Hi.
why I'm shouting it out, just in case I missed you. So I'm just missing
Elodie.
is, huh?
Elodie.
Elodie? Okay, I got you, but did you
No, I didn't.
speak? Okay,
No.
go ahead.
So my name's Elodie. Sorry, my dog's in the background. He's being nosy. Um, I work at a school. I'm an on-site sub. Before that, I worked as a news producer for a couple of years. I realized dealing with adults was not as fun, so why not just go and see what school life is about? So
Okay.
I was on a long-term assignment for sixth grade, and I realized that was a lot for me. So, but I do like school, so why not try counseling? So, my little brother was actually the one that inspired me because, well, he graduated last year, and his counselor was not very helpful. And
Okay.
he really leaned on me to help him with college applications and FAFSA. And so he kind of like, I guess, talked me up and hyped me up about like, hey, you should really consider doing this, really helpful. So I was like, all right, well, I'll take your word for it.
Okay. Excellent. Well, depending on your setting, you'll see that some of the things that you spoke about, I mean, school has changed tremendously since you all probably have been there. And so the counselors don't do the same things that they used to do. It used to be a little bit easier in the sense that when you're in high school, you're really guiding that person towards their next step in life, whether it be furthering their education or whether it is going off to the workforce, and you were preparing them for that. And, you encouraged everyone, regardless of their GPA, regardless of what was happening, that was what you were doing. Um, so it's important um, that we continue to do that, but we're finding less and less time to be able to do that. Now, in high school, it's a must. It's a requirement for us to do that, but there's so many other things that are taking precedence over that because you've got to the picture of the iceberg where when the child comes in and they're not doing, you see what's the 10% at the top, but you've got to figure out what's going on underneath the surface. Well, that's what we're spending majority of our time figuring out what's going on underneath the surface. Why? Because there's all that's under there that is the reason why they're not achieving. That is the reason why they're not able to get to the next level. And you've got to kind of address that and our role and what is our role in addressing those things. If it's in depth and it requires excessive counseling or therapeutic counseling, then that's when we collaborate, send to a mental health agency, give them a therapist, and then we see and we get the psychological support that we need, whether it's medication, whether it's just ongoing therapy to address those concerns so that they can improve as an individual. And you work with that a mental health professional to guide them towards the success that they are trying to accomplish in school. And then if it's other things, temporary things, trauma, things that don't require that ongoing therapeutic, it's our job. So in the high school, sometimes you figure out that you need to put them in multiple group sessions. We have our multi-tiered support systems of support now. And it's important that we give all students levels 1, 2, and 3 according to their needs, right? And so that's what we're spending the majority of our time. And this class is going to focus on tier 2 and tier 3, okay, with a small group. Okay. Tier 1, I'll go over that a little bit in like classroom lessons and so on and so forth. But it's really about, okay, you know that the student needs more than just what you gave everyone else. So what are you going to give them in addition to make them or help them be successful at whatever level they are, elementary, middle, or high school? Okay, so we'll be focusing on groups and how to design those groups, put those groups together, and um, use them for the needs of our students. Okay. Kylie just joined us. Thank you. We started off by introducing why we wanted to go into counseling and if we're currently working in education or a different field.
Hi, I'm Kylie. I'm currently working for a nonprofit that works with foster youth and youth that are at risk of exploitation. I got into school counseling because I feel like it's a great way for me to do the work that I'm passionate about, helping students, but also have a little bit better of a boundary with, having a family and things like that. So just passionate about stepping into the school side of it and helping students in that way.
Great. Thank you. All right. So according to my attendance, it looks like I have Fatima and Liliana not here. Is that correct? Everybody else is here. Mhm. All right. Perfect. All right. So I kind of mentioned already that we'll be going into small group and I'll show you how to design a small group. And one of your assignments is to put an 8-week lesson together, and that's your group lesson. So right now, I'll just kind of go over um, our different assignments. And I also have this videotaped in the welcome. So if there's anything that I mention or you have questions, go ahead and stop me. But also remember that there's a video of all of this information as well that you can refer to at any time throughout the course. So your first assignment is due week 2, and it is the simplest assignment. You're going to look at the case study. You're going to choose, there are 3 case studies on the assignment page, and you're going to select 2, and you're going to just state what would you do in those situations. I encourage you to ask if you have a counselor, if you know someone. I know we're out of school, so it's a little bit difficult at this time whenever we have our summer courses. We don't have that connection to someone who is working in the field. But, kind of ask around, what would you do in these situations if you're not working in the industry? But for the most part, the answers are going to be in your book. And you can research the answers to kind of get an idea of what would you do. Your answer is not wrong. So if for some reason you state that you would do this, and this is the reason why you would do it, and this is the research that you found, and it's not actually what our policy and procedures are, don't worry about that. You just defending it and using the research is going to get you your full points, okay? And then, of course, I'll come in and correct it in class and say, okay, well, according to California law or what we do in California, these are the policy and procedures that we have for that particular scenario, okay? So you get to choose 2 of those 3, and then you're going to write a narrative about what you would do, and definitely cite, where you got your research from, the information, the laws, all of those things, excuse me, in order to get your citations and use your APA format. It doesn't have to have a million citations because you're just kind of quoting, oh, this is what the research says. This is what people have said. These are what tried and true practices. This is best practices according to so and so and so and so and so on and so forth. Okay. Please use the APA template that is under the writing section for your on your Canva. Okay. If you just download that and input everything in, you'll always get your points for your APA. Sometimes what ends up happening is people forget subtitles. So like in this one, it would be, you would just have scenario 1, scenario 2 as your subtitles, and then the information in those two, and then your citations and your reference page. Okay? Any questions or concerns so far? All right. Assignment number 2 is group involvement. And this is going to, there's two parts to this. And this, I didn't know if it came out well in the welcome video, but this is how we're going to do it. We meet week 3. During week 3, you're going to come to class with a group lesson. Okay. And you are going to have the components of a group lesson. Now, I'm going to go over some of the components of a group lesson in a moment, as part of our lecture today, but you will pick a lesson. Does a lesson have to be something you created in your head? Absolutely not. We don't do that. We use information from other things. So like if you have someone's a counseling book or a reference book and you see a quick one from K to 12, use it, okay? And when you're using it, you're making it your own. Think about you're actually presenting this. So if you're presenting it, how would you present it to that group of students, that age group, for that topic, and how would you make it engaging for them? One of the first things we do to make it engaging is we have to have something visual, right? We have to have something for them to do, right? We have to, those are the components of a good lesson, right? So you do an introduction, you teach them something, you define something, and you usually can do that through a PowerPoint. That's your visual. And then you say, okay, now let's practice what I just taught you. And you practice it in a game way or a worksheet or a coloring sheet, something to that nature. And then you ask questions and then you recap. And then that's the end of your lesson for the most part, right? Now, most lessons kinder, 15 minutes. You wrap it up in 15 minutes because they will talk about their dogs, the turtles, and everything else. You won't be able to get through. So with a kinder lesson, you're pretty much TK and kinder, you're pretty much, okay, I came in here to say, what are the 4 rules, the 4 school rules? I mean, what's a great way to be a good listener? Eyes watching, ears listening, voice quiet, body still. All right, let's practice that. Okay, I'm going to do this. What does this mean? Eyes watching. What does this mean? Ears listening. What does this mean? Voice quiet. What does this mean? Body still. Okay, let's practice one more time. Show me voice quiet. Eyes quiet. Eyes watching. I'm just repeating this over and over and over again for a kindergartner. And then we practice it again. And then I say, okay, so how are we good listeners? What's our first rule? Eyes watching. What's our second rule? Ears listening. What's our third rule? Voice quiet. What's our fourth rule? Body still. Okay, now show me. Who can show me? Who can show me? There's my lesson, right? Now I've got to have a visual component to that. So we usually put puppets together. I brought my friend. My friend came in here to teach you how to sit still today. So those are things that we would show, and I'm demoing it, right? And then I'm picking my great leaders, and I'm saying, who's showing me the best body still? And all the bodies get still. Sticker, 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 sticker. All right. And then that's my 15-minute lesson. Okay. And so I just demoed that for you, but I would show you that in my lesson. Okay. So during week 3, I would have pictures of what is it? Eyes watching, what's the signal? Ears listening, what's the signal? Voice quiet, what's the signal? And then body still. Okay. And this comes out as second step. I just have it memorized. Okay. So it's not like I just made that up myself. Okay. And second step is the curriculum that we use in our school district as the tier 1 for social emotional SEL learning. Okay. So all teachers teach it. And I might go in and reinforce it. Okay. So that's why that's a tier 1. It's done every day. But when we initially got the curriculum, I've had the curriculum for years, and I taught it before the district adopted it before we moved to MTSS. So when we moved to MTSS, this is when they said, okay, we need a tier one, a tier two, and a tier three, curriculums, and what's gonna be the varying difference between them. So this is just a tier one, right? Now when I'm teaching social emotional skills in I would say first grade. First grade, I'm gonna go up maybe about 3 to 5 more minutes. That's it. When I get to second grade, okay, I might be at 25 minutes. When I get third through fifth, I can take fifth graders all the way to an hour, depending on how squirrely they are, right? Every year, you get a different group of fifth graders. Some of them mature very quickly, some of them do not. So if they don't, and you have a squirrely group, that means you got to get up and play games. You got to move them around. Stand up, sit down, move over here, go over here. We're going to play a game. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. Then you can carry it out to that hour time frame. Okay. And when you're doing, and this is a class lesson. Now, when we're doing a group lesson, I probably wouldn't carry it out to a whole hour. It'd be like 45 minutes wrapping up. Okay. And then that would be 45 minutes for my lesson only, with 5 to come and go. So everybody's there on time, and then they get back to class on time. Okay. So, and then it goes up from there. I mean, you kind of keep it in the 45 to hour range because no one has attention for longer than that. But the longer it is, the more movement you need to have to make it engaging, and the more activities you need to do, to kind of, but you're driving in 1 or 2 points. That's it. No more than 1 or 2 concepts that you're trying to teach in that one lesson. And what we're going to learn to do, with our final assignment as a group assignment, is what we'll learn to do is how do we string it all together? So now I have chosen to do a trauma group. How do I put 8 lessons together to meet with this group who have experienced trauma? So maybe I might define what trauma is. That's the first lesson. Second lesson, I might talk about how it feels, the emotions that we experience with trauma. The third lesson, I might talk about what can I do when I feel a trigger, and how do I get back to that calm feeling? So I'm practicing mindfulness or other strategies. The third lesson, I might talk about what if I re-experience the trauma again? How do I get through it? How do I work through it? Maybe I teach them another skill set the next time, journaling or talking to a therapist or something like that. And so on. So I'm always building on that till I get 8 lessons. And then my final lesson with them is a recap, probably, of all the things that we tried. Now, you also have to have a pre and a post test. So, and the pre and post test is the exact same 3 to 5 questions. And depending on the age, you might have thumbs up, thumbs down as the answers. You might have a rating scale. You might have happy face, sad face. I don't know. And it gets more intense depending on your grade levels, right? And who can read. Then we have to take into consideration all the different people that we have on our campuses. As Carmen mentioned, one of her passions is working with the second language learners. So anybody who's a second language learner may not be at speed when you're coming in. So do you have translated materials? If not, if you have multiple languages, your school, is not possible to have translated materials, but how do you help them to grasp that lesson in your small group when you're designing it? Because you may have them in there, especially with a trauma group, right? Because they experience trauma coming from another country potentially, or they might be experiencing trauma at their school because they're from another country, right? So we want to make sure, okay, how do they feel in this new country? How do we make them feel more welcome? And we want to teach those skill sets that translate as they are beginning to learn in a new country. All right. So that is your second assignment. Now, I gave you a video in your welcome group. And during that video, it is a school counselor who is showing you basically how I want you to deliver that lesson for week 3. Because you're not going to pretend like, because I'm going to put you in breakout groups so that everybody has an opportunity to do their lesson and then observe 2 other people. Okay. So that's important. So it's important that you're here for week 3 for that live session. All right. And then on week 4, you're going to write your reflection paper. And it's based on the experience that you had in week 3. Any questions about assignment number 2? All right. So when you're writing your reflection paper, you are addressing these things. You're going to write a 2-page paper reflecting on the experience. How did you prepare for your group? What did you do? How did you find your lesson? And you just talk a little bit about, the topic that you chose, why it's passionate to you, why you think it's important, the topics and the issues that were discussed. What was the learning target? We don't have any more than 2 learning targets, right? What was your biggest strength as a leader? Was it your delivery? Was it your conversation? Did you stutter? What was your biggest strength? Was it maybe you're super creative. So maybe it was your activity that you came up with. And then what strengths did you observe in your classmates that you would like to replicate? So maybe this is your first time, you were totally nervous. Don't worry about it. That's why we're getting this practice. See how it feels to lead this group, right? And then in what areas would you like to improve, grow, and learn? So that's your 2-page paper, all right? Any questions about assignment number 2? So right now, your thoughts are when we finish classes, let me go gather that lesson. And remember, you can take some other lesson that you see online, in a counseling book, on a topic that's important to you. And then you get to choose the level that you want, and you get to add the extras. So let's just say they were going to make sand. And you're like, I can't, I'm not about to make sand. So what can you make instead? That would be a tool that is faster, that you think would be great for teaching the same task or the topic that you're teaching at that moment, right? So that's where you kind of change it. Like what makes sense, because this isn't arts and crafts, so we don't have enough time for that. And we know how sand is messy and it's fun, but it's messy, right? And then, yeah, so you're going to find your assignment, your lesson, as soon as we end class today. That's your job, to find your assignment and be prepared to deliver it. Like I said, you'll be in breakout groups, so you won't listen to everybody's, but it'll be enough time for us to hear each other and then kind of come back together and go over the experience that we had. And I'll be popping into the breakout groups. Based on the number of you guys, I would say I'm going to put you in. There's 16 of you total, so it would be four per group. Okay. Assignment number 3 is due week 6. It's the group meeting observation. So right now, I want you to stop and think about, what group do I belong to? That's not at school, because we're not at school right now, right? So you need to find a group that you belong to, or that your mother belongs to, or that someone that you know that you can have access to be able to observe that group. All right. So even if it's a friend, like it could be a social one, it could be a church one, it could be a neighborhood one, whatever group it is. It does not need to be an educational one. Now, if you happen to be going to training or some other thing, over the summer, and it meets it'll go ahead and meet the requirements, then that's fine. But it does not need to be an educational one. Just keep that in mind. So right now, just think of a group that you can either observe, someone, a friend's group or something like that. For example, my mom has her own personal investment group. So if I were to watch them, I would say, okay, can I observe your meeting? They have it once a month, and they do it digitally. They used to come together and they invest in stocks and bonds. So they have a whole thing that they go through, and I would, you know, write up my project on that investment group, right? I'm not a part of it, but I'm looking, and this is what I'm going to write on. What's the name and purpose of the group? It's an investment group. The frequency of the meetings, once a month on Mondays or Sundays. The purpose of this meeting, to invest in stocks and bonds as a group. Participants, there's 5 of them now. The sex, they're all female. Approximate age, they're all over 80. Relationships among the groups and the names. So they're just friends, you know. And then the physical setting, I would design a virtual meeting example because they are always online now. And the role of the leader, the direction and flow. They have a president, they have a secretary, they have a treasurer. So I would talk about all of those things. Um, the role of the leader, the structure of the meeting, the dynamics between the meeting members, analysis of any conflicts in power. Yeah, they have power struggles. I hear it all the time because it's always in the house. And they talk really loud because they're old. And and then the overall impression effectiveness of the group. They've kind of been group members for, I think, 30 years. So it's been a really long time that they've been investing. So it's a wonderful group to observe. And then just their overall effectiveness of it. They're learning a lot and they keep learning every single day, even though they're all over 80 years old. So they're always using their minds to invest in different stocks and bonds and watch the stock market. So it's really exciting to see them grow with that. Any questions about assignment number 3? Okay, assignment number 4 is your You're in Charge group session report. So this is the one where you're going to come up with 8 lessons, okay? And you have to write a paper also, okay? So I put you in groups of 4 already. I've sent you that list, so you have that right now. And so all you have to do is go to your emails, open up the attachment, and you'll see what group you are in. And you are going to decide and plan 8 lessons on a topic, whatever topic and whatever grade level you guys choose. And and then you're also going to use the Ask a Lesson Plan template, right? Which is on your assignment page. So that's what you put the 8 lessons into. Again, when you are designing your lessons, you're pulling from multiple sources. This does not need to be something that you create and that I've never seen before or anything like that. That's not the purpose of this assignment. The purpose of this assignment is for you, if someone says, I need an ADHD group, and you go, okay, and I need you to, because our ADHD students are not doing well academically in school. And the data shows that. So now you need to work with them to help improve their academics. Okay, so we know they're fidgety. They may not have 504 plans. They may not be on medication. But do they even know they have ADHD a lot of times? I mean, you've heard from their parents often that they were diagnosed, but I don't want medication, but I don't want this, but I don't want that. So, and then in elementary, it's not super important for a 504 unless they're failing tremendously, in which we probably would do the 504 roll into the IEP process, right? If they're failing horribly. But if they're not and they're managing, but they don't always do their best because of the distractibility or the hyperactivity, now that's what the 504 plan is for. Or maybe they're not there for a 504 plan, they're super brilliant, but they're just not focused in class at all. But when you sit them down, they pass the test with flying colors. They do their assignments super fast. So they're at or above grade level, but they're not interacting with their peers well. They don't do groups well, right? So what strategies are we trying to address as we work with this group that have peer relationship issues, distractibility? They don't let other people talk, all the time. So what are some things, throw out some things that we might, um, a topic we might address with ADHD? Any ideas?
Maybe focus techniques.
Good. Excellent. Now, focus techniques, would that be the first thing when we talk about or no? Probably not. Not the first one. So we've got a topic, but is it going to be the very first one? I think the first one we probably start talking about what is ADHD, right? What is it? Let's define it. And then we kind of explain it to them in some sort of way. Do you find that sometimes your mind is kind of wandering? Do you find out that all of a sudden your body's moving and you're realizing, like, oh, I'm out of my seat, I'm over here, but the teacher wants me to be over here? Or do you find that your leg is moving and you can't make a stop? And it's just going, but it's not bothering, but it's bothering everybody else, you know? And then you say, okay, so what are some things we can do? So we're like defining. They might say, oh, that's me. Oh my God, what happened? Now you're educating them because they know that their body is doing something. You say, well, there's nothing wrong with you. It's just your body, your brain works differently than other people's brain. So now what we're going to do in this class is we're going to learn how to work with other people in large groups, you know? And they go, oh, okay. So like when people say they don't want to work with them because they don't stay focused or they're all over the place or this or that. Okay, we're going to teach you some skills that you can use to help you get along with others and so on. So this is what this class is about. So that's kind of like two things and then we would move into, so we would define it, talk about examples of it, and then even maybe give them in our pre and post test, like, what are the things I can do? Or maybe even ask them, what are some things that distract me, my own self, noises? Where do I think I learn best? Then the next lesson, we might even talk about what type of learner am I? Am I a visual? Am I kinesthetic? Am I auditory? Or, it can go in so many different ways, depending on what you're trying to do and the age group, right? But your goal is I'm trying to teach these students who have ADHD, who may or may not be on medication, um, which isn't really important whether they are or not, but it's just how do I fit in with everyone else when I'm different? Okay. And then we're going to teach them those skill sets. So, like, then when they go back to class, if they're the tapper, they're always doing this. And I say, okay, is that distracting other people? So then what can you do instead so that you get your movement, but you're not distracting the people around you? Maybe I gave them a stress ball. So now they're doing this and they're squeezing it. And it's keeping them going because it's keeping them focused so that they can stay focused on their work. But that stress ball is not bothering anybody else. Right? So now I've replaced that strategy and now they're more aware of it. So even within my lessons and even when I'm doing my groups, I got to go in as a counselor and see, are they using the strategies that I'm teaching in my small group and collect observational data. Okay? So In this, you guys are going to decide your 8 lessons, what order they'll be in, and you'll talk that over. And then you'll split that up, and then you'll have to write a 3 to 4 page paper answering all of those questions. So, um, like you have to have the name and type of group, the goal and rationale for the group, the literature review, a pre and post tests for group evaluation, the identification of participation mindsets and behavior data. That is what you're addressing with these 8 things, because that's from the ASCA website. So your mindset, ASCA mindset, what you're aligning each one of those lessons with. Your leader training and goals. That's just the 4 people that put this all together. What your experience is, your group format techniques, what strategies are you going to use? Are you going to use any specific strategies? Like CBT is one of the best theories for ADHD, right? So I look up cognitive behavioral theory, and that's one of the ones I would use. And then the expectation of the group members, the rules and roles of the participants, and how confidentiality will be achieved, how you will determine who is included and who is excluded. So, how did you go about finding these ADHD students? Okay, was it through observational data? Was it through your 504 plans? Was it through your academic achievement data? So how did you find these students and determine that this is a small group that I need to address? And then an outline of each session, because maybe you have an ADHD student who's doing great and they're managing their behaviors. So would that be one that you would include or exclude? Because your goal is to improve your achievement. This person has friends, does well. You see them in social groups. You see them with their friends. Um, they are selected for activities. They have good grades. So would you need to include that person? No, that would be one that you would exclude. And that's what you're saying. You're saying that I'm focusing on the kids that are academically not achieving and having peer relationship issues. Okay. And then an outline of each session, which is using the lesson plan template. So you guys get to divide that up. I would say 2 people should work on the paper, 2 people should work on the lesson plan, but you all have to work together to be able to know what you're doing as a group, okay? Because it's a lot to put in and a lot to write. And we have a short period of time during these 8 weeks. And depending on, like, somebody might be taking a vacation. So who can get, how can we get it started, and so on and so forth in our groups. Okay. Now we will present in your group, and this is due week 7. But when we meet week 7, you're just kind of go over it, give us the shell of it, and talk about it as a group, but not with visuals. Does that make sense? So as a group, you'll say, okay, our group chose this, and then I do 2 minutes of talking, somebody else does 2 minutes talking, somebody else does 2 minutes talking, somebody else does 2 minutes talking, and we're done. No need for visuals. I mean, if you have something you want to show us, like, oh, we thought this would be important, we thought that would be important, so on and so forth. Okay? So that's what we'll do week 7. So week 3 and 7 are kind of covered with you guys' assignments, and with you all kind of doing the presentation parts for our sessions. Okay. And then your final assignment, which is due week 8, and it's due Wednesday of week 8. And then Friday closes out the week. And then I turn in my grades on Sunday morning. So it's important that if there's anything that comes up, You just get it in as quickly as possible. And this is your signature assignment. And all you're going to do is find one article on any aspect of group counseling, any aspect of group counseling. So you're just going to Google that, find an article on using the library on group counseling, and then you're going to write a 2-page summary of the article. So this is one, it's a no thinker. You're writing you read it and you summarize it. No one's asking you to put more into it. Just read it and summarize it. Okay? And the importance of it. So the title, the summary of the research being presented, and your reflection of that one. So that one is a no-brainer. So your first assignment's a no-brainer, and your last assignment's a no-brainer. Okay? The meat is in between, and so you need to focus on those things important. But the signature assignment is the assignment that if you don't turn it in, you don't get a grade for the course, even if you have an A. So it's important that it gets turned in, but it's a no-brainer. Okay? Any questions about our assignment so far? Oh, everybody, it's all good? All right. So your book is A School Counselor's Guide to Small Group. And so it is going to be in 5 parts: best practices, skills, advancement of practices, plans. And it does have lesson plans in there and ideas and topics of lesson plans. So you should be able to, take a look at some topics this evening and kind of meet and exchange with one another some ideas that you are thinking about. But quickly make your decision so that if everyone has, some people have vacations or things that they're not going to be present for, that they can be working on it without you changing it. Okay. It's really important. The other thing is, there's not a lot of time for you to say, well, we were working together for 4 weeks or 5 weeks on this assignment. And then the person never responded to me, us never participated, never attended, and you're just now telling me on week 6. There's nothing I can do about that. Okay. So it's important, one, that we're all adults and we work together. And so we need to carry our load. So be upfront and honest about if you're having vacations, if you are going somewhere, so that you can honestly, and vacations are hard. We want to check out, especially after a rough year, but we're in this course, and this course has a group assignment. And sometimes that's difficult, so I really want you to be aware of your responsibilities, because if you don't work in a group, there is no, well, I called, they didn't call me back, so I just turned in my own. Because that's not the assignment. The assignment is you working together as a group. Okay? Any questions or concerns about that?
I have a question.
Yes.
So for assignment number 4, it actually needs to be done on that Tuesday when we present. Is that correct? Even though the due date is August 10th?
No, the due date, no, it's due on August 10th. You don't have to upload. So if there's some changes that you need to make or whatever, that's why I said the 10-minute presentation is more an overview. And you might show us something, but it's not due that day. That's why we're not going to have, we're just going to talk about it, talk about our experiences, talk about it as a group and share out,
Okay.
Yeah, but it is due that Sunday, like always.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. All right, so chapter one talks about the ethical and legal concerns about groups in schools. And so I'm going to kind of go over chapters one and two to get started. So there's a lot of complications with small group. And one of the reasons is because we have to have certain requirements in order to have a small group. Now, when we do class lessons and when we're doing our tier one supports for school counseling, that level doesn't require us to have any informed consents or parent consent. Most of the time, even if we do something for a whole class, most schools are doing things like where the consent is if you read it and you turn it in, then it is, then you can opt out. But most of them, you don't have an option to opt out because we're coming in as a school and we're recognizing that this is the need for this class, this is the need for the school, this is what we see, and we have data to support that, right? So, we also need to keep in mind that we are addressing three areas. ASCA, our national, our American Counseling Association, states that we need to design all of our lessons um, as far as social emotional learning, college and career, and academics. So again, when I gave the example of ADHD, I talked about why am I pulling these students? Because they're failing. So academically, we're noticing that these students aren't doing as well as they should be doing because of the ADHD that is um, affecting their learning. Now, we might have 504s in place and it's still not working. So, how do we improve that? We improve that by saying, okay, we have this 504 in place that the teacher is addressing those needs individually, but we also are putting them in counseling groups to let them know they're not alone and let them know that, everybody learns differently. And these are the things that we want to do. And we would get an informed consent with that. So, informed consent is a requirement that school counselors provide to disclose the group to the group members what the purpose is, the goal, the techniques, and the rules of procedure for the group. Informed consent is even more important for groups than individual counseling. Individual counseling usually is something that someone has, decided that they wanted to do. But when you're selecting a group, the parent needs to know, why did you select my child? What were the criteria for that group? you know and a lot of times you get parent requests. So sometimes when you think about it, you pull a group because you got 7 phone calls and this is what the parents need. Now when you look at the kids all together, even though they may not be in the same grade level, and I'm using the K-5 setting as an example, emotionally, where are they? So can I put them all together, even though they might be second through fifth? It depends on their maturity level. So I would take a look at that and decide, okay, I'm going to take all of them because um, emotionally they're at the same level, right? And then it's also about disclosing sensitive information that happens in front of other students. So this group think people are going to share additional information. So if something is said in that group, we don't want parents saying, well, why did she mention that? What was the question? And we want to kind of say, and that's where we'll learn how to keep students on topic for that. Sometimes we have to kind of shut them down and say, can I talk to you a little bit later about that? I have some concerns about some things that you're sharing with us, and I'd like to talk with you more about that. And so we don't want them to continue to share all of that information during the group, but then we pull them aside and continue to evaluate them and see if there's more that they need from us. Confidentiality is a huge problem in groups because we're sharing out information and we never know how the students are going to take it. Now, we put up the rules, we talk about confidentiality, but kids are kids. So we know that they'll go back and say, she said this. She said her father said this, or her sister said that, and then it could start a whole big problem on our campuses. So we are never sure as counselors if they really understand the nuances behind confidentiality, that we really can't share this information, and that people have legal rights to confidentiality. Confidentiality it came up more when we were virtual because we had to provide counseling to students virtually, and we couldn't keep it confidential because there was always a sister in the room or the things that we said. So it was always a difficult task. So we have to buy different materials or different security levels in order to continue to provide it virtually. Small group delivery is very fragile, and it's impossible to know who's listening to each student in all the various households. So, having the private place or headphones or sound machines still didn't really work that well in the virtual world. So, I know that a lot of people are very happy that we're back face to face, where we can provide more face to face. But we noticed that therapists are more available to us virtually. So, as a collaborator with your mental health professionals, you're finding that you have many more agencies that are able to provide um, therapeutic services virtually, and not very many people are willing to come to your campus. So, that becomes a difficult task for your district to manage. All right, chapter 2 kind of goes into competencies in designing and delivering group work in schools. So, our professional standards provide counselors with the fundamental rationale and justification for designing and implementation of group work in schools. So, remember our levels. We have tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. And we can support students in all 3 levels. And we are responsible for supporting them in those 3 levels. And as I mentioned earlier, we design our groups based on the 3 areas: academic, social emotional, and college and career, based on our ASCA mindsets and behaviors. All right. And then we use our theories, all the different types of theories that we learned: um, relational cultural theory, Adlerian, solution focused theory, reality theory to guide our interventions. And like I told you before, CBT, cognitive behavioral intervention theory, is also is one that we use more frequently than any for the topics that we tend to addressed in schools. So, our action plans often include group counseling intervention to target and increase academics, personal achievement for all students, college and career, and then post secondary preparedness, and then the social emotional learning. And so, and then crisis response. So, we have our suicide ideations and our groups for that as well, which is our trauma groups. So a typical lesson plan: elementary lasting for about 30 minutes. And like I said, the upper grades are closer to 45. If I go into the classroom and do a class lesson, I would definitely be there longer, about an hour. But if I'm doing a small group, then I'm going to stop it at 45 minutes with 5 minutes for them coming and then 5 minutes for them to return back to class. So, and that's easy to do in K-5 because they're single, they're with one teacher. You're looking at the pull-out time, and it's a little bit easier to kind of pull them. This is how a typical lesson plan goes with an icebreaker, a review of the previous session, if it's not the first session, um, a report on the progress, a skills and awareness, and then a summary where they can kind of learn, summarize what they learned for that course. And then it kind of grows from there. Again, remembering that as low as kinder, it's about 15 minutes. Most of those lessons don't last more than 15 minutes. You show them a picture and you repeat things 16 times. Show them another picture, repeat it again, go back to the first picture. And that's pretty much what you do in kinder or TK. Just because they can't sit still. The group stages, the initial stage, the first two sessions, is where you're setting the rules. You have group rules, and these are all things that need to be in that group assignment that you'll be doing with your lesson plans. You need to have group rules, defined in the objectives. Those are all going to be written out on the lesson plan. And then also when you're delivering your lesson next week, you'll have group rules. So you'll say, okay, if this is session 2 of a session, you would start with that as you're talking to and delivering your lesson to your breakout group. And then you're going to ask participants what they want to learn and how they expect the group to be conducted. Let the group members know that being in a group requires sharing personal thoughts. And then this is where we would probably go over confidentiality and that everything that's said in this room kind of stays in the room. Then we have the working stage where there's two more, the next two lessons. And this is the progression. And the group members gain insight on how they can reach their goals by experimenting with everyday interactions through methods like role playing. Students can learn how new techniques and they can utilize outside the group. So the purpose is for us to teach them something and then they go practice it, teach them and practice it. And that's why it's important to go check on your groups and your members in your group while they're in the classroom to see if they are using the skills that you have taught them. Many times they go to group, they love coming to group. Then when they get back to class, it's like, I'm here and I forgot all the stuff that Ms. Bobo taught me. And then we have the last two sessions, which is our closure session. And we kind of remind kids, because some people love that time, depending on the topic, that ability to share their emotions, share their feelings, especially if they don't have someone that they can do that with at home. This may be very important to them. And so the closing of the group can be traumatic and triggering for them. So you really want them to understand that you're not going to be here the whole time and that, you will, we're going to be closing out the session. So the second session, you would want to say, okay, we only have one more session left. We only have one more session left because they get accustomed to being with you. And it's important that you let them know that it's coming to an end. I would say most sessions are 6 to 8 weeks. And I can tell you, I struggle with getting 6 because you always have weeks in between where something comes up that you can't do your group. And so you might see that you're missing week 2, week 3. It's really difficult. And I'm telling you, very difficult to have, even with help, to have consistency in your 6 sessions. So I would never take on more than 2 groups um, in at the same time, right? Because it's really difficult to maintain them and keep up with them with all the other things that are happening on the campus. When you have a difficult student, you might have to remove them. No matter how important it is for them to have this group, they might not fit in a group, which means you might need to do individual counseling with them because you expose them to the group experience, but maybe they're not group people. And if they're not group people, you don't force them into being group people. Obviously, the group helps them with the social skills that you're trying to teach, especially when I gave that example of the ADHD group. With that ADHD group, you're really trying to get them to learn how to deal with different people. And that dealing with your own peers, even if they're not in the same class, what a great way to practice that, right? But sometimes you'll find that they're more disruptive. And so you don't want to ruin the group by keeping them in and forcing them to participate. You can still teach them the skills individually and get some results from there. And then maybe throw them back into a group after you've kind of met with them individually. Collecting the data. So it's important to see, okay, after that, how did it work? So I have my pre and post test, which will be the same few questions. So if I'm doing an ADHD, I might have a question on, I feel confident about strategies to use when I'm fidgety. I feel confident that I understand ADHD. And maybe a third question, I understand how to manage my ADHD. Okay, so that's, and those would be a yes or no, right? And then that might be on no's the first time with the pretest because I say, what is ADHD? So no, it's a no. And then at the end, they might have all yeses. So that's the data that you talk about. Most kids, you just with your pre and post tests, you want them to be simple, just some circles, A, B, C, or D, or a rating scale from 1 to 2, whatever you're trying to measure. And then finally, after you take your pre and post test, that's one form of data that you're collecting. Then the next thing that you would do is take a look at the grades. Okay, so after you do observational data, so in between, like, are they applying them? When you go in and you observe, are they using the skills that you're giving them? And then finally, you would take a look at their grades. Did their grades improve with your counseling session? So it's also important when you do your ADHD group, if it's affecting the academics, because if you notice that you're using their last year's report card and then you do it, and then the first report card is going to come out right before, right after you finish your group, then you'll have that first trimester report card to determine they all improved, okay, and hopefully they all improved a little bit. So you're not looking for major. So you're not looking from A's to B's, but like maybe they weren't turning in assignments, maybe they weren't finishing things. So now you're noticing that they have more completion. So they improve the percentage of their completion. That's the data that you're collecting. And then you move forward with the next step. Okay, so by having that ADHD group, they started turning in more assignments. They remembered, they were more organized because you taught that skill. So, and they didn't lose as many documents as they have in the past. So those are the things that you would want to take a look at. So here's some questions that you can ask yourself when you're trying to create a group. Who are the student groups at your school who are not being adequately and competently served? How can you address these opportunity gaps? So what are the topics that you need to address and who needs it the most? What are some of the barriers related to the group facilitation at your school? How do you get the kids to group? Because you know that academics takes precedence. So especially if the scores are low at your school. So and then there's just basic time. In high schools, they're in blocks. So how do you get all these different kids in different blocks together? So you might have to do some managing there. And then what kind of specialized training might you need to provide social groups, just group counseling services to marginalized students in school. So these are the three questions that you would ask yourself when you're trying to design your group. So we have a final scenario. Megan, a Latino woman and a new middle school counselor, learned during her job interview that there's a large population of Latinx first generation college bound students at the school where she'll start her counseling career. To meet the needs of her students, Megan wants to facilitate a first generation college readiness group with high school juniors. She has some knowledge on experience of first generation students, but she does not feel that she knows enough to facilitate the group on her own. She is also worried that she will not receive approval to facilitate the group during the school day, as teachers frown upon the students missing instructional time. Megan has considered running an after-school group, but she knows that many of the students in her target demographics have family obligations or would need access to transportation. So how would Megan, as a first-year counselor, what are some things that she would look for to try to start this group? She has the data. She's targeted the students. Who are the students? You guys can just turn on your mics and shout it out. Who are the students?
The Latinx first
They're
generation.
Latinx, first generation, right? So now she's in middle school, right? So think about middle school. They could be blocked, they could be single classes, and academics is important. She wants a college readiness group. Carmen, this is your area of expertise. What do you think? How do we address these students? How do we how do we get them where they need to be? Because we want to expose them to college. College readiness is really important, right? Carmen, you have any thoughts from your experiences? Anybody
I just
else?
had a
Go ahead, jump in.
yeah, I just had something to add because if she has this knowledge, but she feels like she doesn't have enough knowledge to support this, I would say she should probably, I guess, partner with people within the school, I guess, that could help find some resources or really collaborate to put that program together to fit those needs of those students.
Absolutely. So she's collaborating. It could be with whom?
There are some schools that have the ELD teachers. She can collaborate with them and make a solid plan.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What a great person. Now she's got the knowledge of the college and career where she wants to teach them, but the ELD teacher is going to kind of give her the format, right? Their levels, what it needs to be, maybe even do some of the translation for her because it doesn't appear that she is able to communicate with them. So, she partnering with the ELD teacher is an excellent idea. Now, once we're partnering with the ELD teacher, sometimes they're in classes together, right? In pull-out groups. So now we're kind of getting an idea so when they're with the ELD teacher in the group, can she do her lessons there potentially? Yeah, that's another idea. Now, So now we've got our group time, and she might have wanted, because ELD sometimes will pull out 6 kids, 7 kids. It just depends. Depends on how many there are at the school, and especially at middle school, we only got 6, 7, and 8, right? And there might be a lot of them. So if there's a lot of them, then the pull-out group, and who is the ELD teacher targeting, right? Because they change who they target also. Um, because there's so many different levels of ELD learning as well, right? So um, we would see which ones do we want to expose to the college and career. Do we want to expose the ones that are new to our country this year?
Seniors and juniors?
No, we're in middle school.
Oh, middle school.
Yeah, we're
Okay.
in middle school. So we don't want to take the people that just arrived, right, to the country, because so that's the group that we would say, and that's our sheltered immersion group, right? So they just got here, they're really just learning English. So we probably want to get the ones that are kind of advancing and they're almost moving away from ELD learning, right? And we're like, okay, you're right on task. And so we want to expose you to college and career because they may not have that experience. They're first generation. Their parents aren't telling them, but they're moving along academically well, right? With their second language, right? And their second language is English. So we're moving along. And that's the group that we want to target. So that's when we ask that ELD teacher, when do you have that group? And then I come in and I deliver a lesson on college and careers, right? So I got my time, I got my partner, now I design my lessons, right? And I'm still doing it what? During the school day. So I've alleviated that problem of having an after school class, right? And we got all that just by Carmen's information of saying, why not partner with the ELD teacher? See how quick that was? And that's what you have to do. You have to study your schedule. You have to study things. Now, things don't go perfectly either. But see, also sometimes the ELD teacher has to cancel his or her group because they can't meet with them. And guess what? You still can because you're going to teach them about college and careers. So that works out perfectly, right? And then we see how, and you do your pre and post. Now, this pre and post and the data that you would collect is slightly different because we're exposing them to college and careers. So this one is a little bit different. We're trying to give them as much information as possible so that once they get into high school, they're able to navigate college and careers with more experience by having had this group. Okay. All right, guys. It is 7:23. Talked a lot today. All right. Any questions or concerns about the course so far? If you have any personal things, feel free to. I'm a great texter. Emails take me a little bit longer. I am on vacation. I am not leaving, so I'll be here. So I'll be easy to reach either through email or by texting. If there's anything that comes up, if it's lengthy, and it's too much to say, just say call me. And can you call me as soon as possible? Leave me a number where I can reach you and we can have a verbal conversation about your specific concern. If it's an email that you can put in a couple of lines about something that like I'm not going to be able to make week 5, so on and so forth, what can I do? Not a problem. I can answer that in no time. And if it's text message like running late in traffic, that's perfect. Okay. All right. Well, if you don't have any more questions or concerns, you all have a great evening. And I look forward to your lessons for week 3. Make sure that you email one another. Look at that list and email each other right away this evening as to how you're going to meet up and discuss your group assignment, do week 7. All right. Thank you so much. You guys have a wonderful evening. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.